Rafe, I suppose you're
Yeah.
top of my list here, so I'm going
Okay.
to hand it over to you, Rafe.
Okay, so I'm looking after the North County and the senior community officer for North County Fingal, and that takes in everything from Balbriggan down the coast, including Skerries, Lusk, Rush, down to Donabate and Portrane. And we're very interested in this, trying to get everybody involved in the electoral process, and that not that any disabilities would stop people playing the full part. So anything we can learn, I can learn and pass on to my team and pass on to the community, and particularly in the new year when people really start focusing on the upcoming elections. We've got a guarantee of 2 next year and possibly a third, if not into early 2025. So yeah, very interested in this and delighted I made it along as well. It was touch and go earlier. So that's me.
Thanks a million. People are moving all over my list here. Catherine, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, yes, I'm Catherine Fitzgerald. I work on the electoral register in the Corporate Services Department in Fingal County Council, which is a small team. John, one of my colleagues, has joined as well, I think, and we have 2 others. And we process the your applications for voting, and we make sure that the lists are accurate and there's no duplications and that. So I'll talk to you about that later. Thank you, and thank you for having me here today.
Thanks, Catherine. Anya.
Hi everybody, I'm Anya Sullivan. I work for the Disability Federation of Ireland. I'm a community worker based around down the south, I suppose, really. I'm here to support PJ, but also my role would be to support people with disabilities to be able to vote as well and to be educated in that area as much as possible. So I'm here in the background, so if anybody needs any help.
Thanks a million. PJ, I suppose, do we hand it back to you, or have you done your introductions?
Well, I haven't done my introductions as such yet, but I would ask Anya to have a look at my I can't actually, the presentation has stopped working, would you believe? I
also have a copy of it here, PJ, so I can, as a backup in terms of if we need to pop it back up on the screen.
Well, as sharing, yes, that would be, looks like, oh, I can get this. I got it there now. Let's see. Let's hopefully now that we will get it again. My apologies, everybody, for that.
No worries, PJ. What I might do is I'll leave you looking after that, and I'll pass over to John if that's okay.
Yes, that'd be super. Thank you very much.
Myself,
John.
yeah.
Yeah, John, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is John Glynn and I work in Fingal County Council Register of Electors, and I'm involved in getting people onto the register and things like that. And I also have a disability myself, so I have a particular interest in today, and I'm looking forward to hearing people.
Great, thanks a million, John. Is it Aaron? Aaron, or actually Aaron, have you disappeared on me? Bear with me now. Cahill, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, thanks, Natasha. Good morning, everyone. And look, I'm very happy to jump on here this morning to support what's a very important session as part of Inclusion Week. I'm the newly appointed Access Officer here in Fingal County Council. So at the moment, I'm just kind of trying to understand the different departments and services that we have here and to see how best I can support them. So very interested in the accessible voting and to encourage anyone with disabilities to vote. It's very important. And I'll be looking forward to working with various departments to ensure that our voting centres are accessible. We have all the appropriate signage and to ensure that there is no barriers to access when it comes to voting as well. So any support or advice I can give, I'm very much here and on hand to give it. So looking forward to supporting departments.
Thanks a million, Cahill. At the end of this session, would you be happy for us to share your contact details with anyone who's here on the call?
Absolutely, yeah, more than happy, yeah.
That's great. Thanks a million, Cahill. Thanks for coming today as well. I know that we was a last minute request here earlier this week, but we just thought it was an appropriate opportunity for you to pop into. Katrina.
Good morning. Katrina Murphy is my name. I'm Senior Community Officer in Fingal County Council, similar to Rafe, but my area is the Mid-East, which is from Howth all the way along the coast to Swords. But I'm also the Senior Community Officer on the Age Friendly team. So I suppose for the groups that we work with, it's great to have the information and to be able to direct them. And the video of this will be great because at least we can pass on the link. From regarding the Age Friendly, we have a huge network and database of groups that we constantly contact. And I think it's really important that we get this information out to the older people because they would have grandchildren. And it's another kind of access point for information. So I'm looking forward to the session. Thank you.
Thanks a million. Tina.
Hi everyone, my name is Tina Wanchuku, and I am the chairperson of the Variety Show group. We base in Hodat Community Center. Basically, we work with children and young adults who live in the area to showcase we give them a platform to showcase their talent. I'm looking forward to this program. Thank you.
Thanks, Tina. And Emma? Sorry, Emma, it doesn't appear that Emma has a little microphone beside her name actually, so perhaps Emma might not be able to participate via microphone, but if Emma, if you would like to introduce yourself in the chat, you'd be very welcome to do that. I don't want to forget to introduce our interpreter, Kira. So Kira is here today. Kira can introduce herself, I suppose.
My name is Kira, and I'll be the sign language interpreter providing access for deaf people today.
Thanks very much, Kira. I think I have everybody there. There's been a few people who's popped in and out, so I'm sure they will join us throughout the session. At this point, I think, PJ, it's ideal to hand back over to you.
My name is PJ Clear. I'm a development manager with DFI, and I also lead on self-advocacy and community development in DFI. Local government elections and the disability inclusion. We're very delighted to be here on with Fingal County Council as part of your Inclusion Week. And so without any further ado, I'll go on to the next slide. Thank you, Natasha. So who is DFI? The Disability Federation of Ireland. We're a federation of member organisations. We have about 122 members, and all of those organisations are working with people with disabilities to implement the United Nations Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities and to ensure their equal participation in society. Our vision is an Ireland where people with disabilities are participating fully in all aspects of society. So for today, our objective is, what we want to do is make people with disabilities more aware of how key decisions are made in community and how they can become more active participants in that process. We'd like to raise awareness of the role which local elected politicians play in those decisions, why it's important that persons with disabilities use their vote in local elections, which are due to take place in June 2024. And offer information as to how persons living in Fingal can register with the local authority so they can vote in the local elections. So the programme for this morning is that I will talk to you a little bit about how those decisions are made. And it's a very basic overview, so there are a lot of more complex and more intricate pieces of the jigsaw, but I think it's important that we start with the basics. How can I take part as an individual or as a member of a group? And what role do local politicians play? Why should I vote? How important are they to this whole process? And we'll be joined by Catherine Fitzgerald, who is also here. Delighted to meet Catherine and Registers of Electors in Fingal County Council. And Catherine will talk a little bit about voter registration. How do I make sure I can vote when the local elections take place in May or June of 2024? Well, it's actually June now, we know. And the evaluation of the workshop will follow up next week. Natasha will be in touch with people from next week, and so we'll be able to evaluate it better. So what does the term local government actually mean? We use the term local government and local authority in Ireland, and they're almost interchangeable in our discussions. So we'd say, I went down to the local government thing the other day, or I was down at the local authority, but they're actually two different pieces. The local elected politicians plus the local authority senior management and staff make up what we usually term in Ireland as local government. So if you just press a button there, the next one, thank you very much, Natasha. Local elected politicians are elected by the voters in the county or the city every 5 years, and the next election is in June 2024. They're part-time politicians from local communities. So generally speaking, they live in the local community, so they're from the local community. Local politicians are accountable to local citizens, governing bodies, and government departments, as well as their respective political parties. They're responsible for making major decisions on how the funding from the EU and the Irish government is spent in the county or the city, and they're responsible for the local government complying with all EU and Irish law, regulations and guidelines when making decisions and carrying out works. And that includes the UNCRPD. The local authority, senior management and staff. Wonderful. Thank you, Natasha. Professional staff, many of them of the local authority with different qualifications in specific areas of expertise, led by the chief executive. Their roles include planning, implementing and evaluating the various actions of local government in cooperation with the local politicians, and oversight and administration of EU and Irish government funding for the county or city, and that's in line with the law, the regulations and the guidelines. So we've got some members of Fingal County Council here today, and like in that regard, each of them, as they've said, have different roles and different responsibilities. So you can imagine that there are many others with similar and interlocking roles and responsibilities, but they don't make decisions just out of the blue. They have a lot of we'll say regulations and standards, and they also have things that they have to adhere to. So some of the decisions that are made in my local government that affect my life. So we can talk about the local authority and the local government, but what kind of decisions are we talking about that they make? Every time you press that button, something will come up. Access to footpaths, buildings, street lighting, etc. Education and training courses and facilities. Funding for programs and activities which include people with disabilities. Changing places in new public facilities or public toilets. The opening or closing of roads or changes to the use of roads, for example, cycling lanes, outside dining, etc., which we saw a lot during COVID. Housing for persons with disabilities. Employment, job opportunities for persons with disabilities. Disabled parking bays in public areas. Public, social and leisure activities and facilities. Street furniture, where it will be positioned. Accessible library services. New developments such as planning or for new buildings or new shopping centres, new street layouts, etc. Timing of traffic lights and pedestrian crossings. How much funding is needed for everything that the local government has to pay for? So they have to decide on that. Where do they get that funding? And last but not least in this one, tourism and heritage funding and accessible tourism projects. And they're just a few of the things that even just come to mind. So the question is, who makes those decisions? Well, in the first instance, there are local elected politicians, which you will get the opportunity to vote for in June. And at the moment, there are 40 elected politicians in Fingal. The senior staff of the local authority and I say senior staff, and I'm including in that Natasha and Co, because they also have different roles to play in different areas of those decision making. And in 2014, there was a reform of local government, and since then, more of the decisions are being made in partnership with members of the public who live in the county or the city, representatives of government departments who are based in the county, that's the likes of the HSE and the Department of Social Protection and the ETB, that's the Education and Training Boards, etc. Members of community and voluntary organisations like area partnerships and the PPNs, special interest groups such as farming associations and trade unions, and organisations delivering actions and programmes in the county or the city that are funded either by the EU or the Irish government. So that'll be LEADER or, as I say, the area partnerships that are doing programmes like the SICAP programme, which is for social inclusion, community activation. So, in other words, all of the decision makers in the county have a stake in making those decisions. So, how are decisions made? Either by the local by local politicians in consultation with the local authority. We say that they actually make decisions together, but how do they do that? And can people with disabilities influence those decisions? Yes, by engaging with politicians, elect politicians who have committed themselves to disability rights and inclusion, by making politicians aware of any concerns you may have, or offer solutions on issues being discussed which may affect people with disabilities. And you make sure that politicians are aware that local government decisions must be in line with the UNCRPD and the Irish Human Rights Public Sector Duty. I think there might be another little thing there, actually. Yeah, the elected politicians, they hold meetings throughout the year to agree what the most important things are to be funded. They also agree a budget, how much the local government will spend on all the different items that need funding. So, as we say, they agree any changes that have to be made to their plans for the development of the county. Flood protection, for example, new roads, new social or leisure areas, or facilities, and much more. So it's very important that the right politicians for the county are actually sitting at those meetings. The local authority staff are professionals, like their engineers, for example, or the directors of planning, or their community workers, their community directors, social inclusion experts. They can actually be in on those discussions, but by and large, the local elected politicians are doing some of the heavy lifting when it comes to making the plans. They have to be approved. But if you think about it, a lot of the time, the local authority staff are actually implementing some of those decisions, or critiquing them and changing them and helping them to come up with the right decision. But unless the right people are there, and unless they're aware of the concerns that we have, and basically that they must be in line with UNCRPD, we can't expect the outcome to be as good as it could be. So, is there any other way that I can be part, me as an individual, that I can be part of making those decisions? Do I have other routes as well? And I suppose the simple answer is yes. Local government must ensure that you can participate in decisions. It's not just a nice idea. Local authorities to take all appropriate steps to consult with and promote effective participation of local communities in local government, the adoption by each local authority of a framework for public participation in each local government area. That's Section 46 of the Local Government Reform Act, which took place in 2014. And basically what it means is that local governments are instructed to make sure that people can participate. So since 2014, new committees and groups were put in place to make sure that local people and community and voluntary organisations can take part in making local decisions. And these include the Public Participation Network, which you have in Fingal also, the Local Community Development Committee, usually known as the LCDC, and a number of consultation subgroups and committees. And they focus on specific things like housing or the environment, social inclusion, disability, older people, etc. So there's a lot of different subgroups and committees that you can be involved in or that you can inform. You don't have to be there yourself. And I do believe that the PPN in Fingal has 721 groups at this moment in time. So that's an amazing amount. So getting our say and having our voices heard as an individual.
PJ, if you don't mind, just for a brief interruption there, I believe
Of course.
Pauline has joined us. So Ciara can take a small bit of respite there in her signing duties, and perhaps if Anya would help us to spotlight Pauline and just to give Ciara a short break, if that's okay.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Natasha. And thank you, Ciara. Is Pauline in place now? I actually can't see Pauline, just to make sure that I don't start until Pauline comes in.
Well, I know my camera is on anyway, if that's any good to you.
Oh, we see you, Pauline. Yeah, I couldn't see you, Pauline. That's all. I just couldn't see you there. Thank you. That's great. So, thank you, Pauline. So, getting our say and having our voices heard as an individual. Well, first of all, we have to make sure that we vote for the politicians and who say that they're committed to disability rights and inclusion. So if somebody says, I am committed to disability, I'm committed to make sure that people with disabilities are equal citizens, well, that means then that you will expect that when they're working with others to make decisions, that they will have that in the front of their minds. Make my concerns or views known through consultations or attend meetings for the public about key issues in my community. Like, I know people feel sometimes that they're consulted out the door, but actually it's a really good thing because we can't have participation without participation. And sometimes we feel that decisions can be made without us. And if they are made without us, it's not always, it's not always something that people certainly don't want to do it. We have a responsibility to be there to help make those decisions. Make contact with elected politicians and make my views or my concerns known. If you know something that's happening in the community, they can't know everything that's going on. So it would be really important for them when they're going into meetings to understand what the issues are. If I am a member of a voluntary club, or if I'm attending a disability organisation for services that is not for profit, make sure that they're members of the PPN also. That's the Public Participation Network. So encourage your club to join the PPN, because through the PPN you also have a voice, but also your group has a voice. And so it's very important that, because in a moment I'll explain to you why that is important, more important than you might think. And sign up for newsletters or information from the local authority and the PPN websites to see what disability issues are being discussed or decided on. Like, many of you will have signed up here today because you saw the Social Inclusion Week. So it's very important that there are other things coming up. There may be an issue which people are worried about and they might want you to be consulted about or maybe give your views. And if they don't get your views, they can't act on your views. And do tell your friends and your family that they also have the right, but they also have the responsibility to be part of local decisions. And this is very important. Make sure that you have the right to vote in the local election. Make sure that you're registered. I think it's also very important that we understand that you do not need to be an Irish citizen to vote in the local elections. so you can still have your say locally on the issues that are important to you. Getting our say and having our voice heard as an organisation or a member of a voluntary organisation. You can see there that Fingal PPN has 721 member organisations at the moment. So to join the PPN in Fingal, there's the email ppn@fingal.ie. If you're a member of an organisation that is not for profit, that means it's not a business. That club or organisation can become the next member of the Public Participation Network. It's really an association for all local community and voluntary organisations in the county. Now, individuals cannot join the PPN, but remember that individuals also have other routes as well. PPNs have representation seats on most of the decision-making committees in local government. This is why it's so important. This is the voice at the moment in Fingal. You could say that the voice of 721 organisations, each of which has maybe dozens of members, is actually at the decision-making tables or the consultation tables in local government. So in disability, we have an old saying, nothing about us without us. Well, it's the same in local government. Nothing about us without us. We'll make sure that Fingal is a great place for everybody if everybody puts their say in. And remember, you don't have to be a representative yourself to get the views of your organisation on the decision-making table. The PPN has representatives on, for example, housing, environment, social inclusion, and other committees, and they do that on their members' behalf. So once you have discussed the issues with your PPN, and they hold meetings called plenaries, and they also send out information and feedback newsletters and so on, so you can contribute to that and give the reps the information they need when they're sitting at those tables. As I say, they send out information regularly about the different committees, and at least once every year that plenary of all members of the PPN meet to discuss issues of importance to the local community groups, and they make plans for the coming year. So to be part of the decision-making and consultation process in the PPN, your organisation must keep in touch on the website of the PPN and with the newsletter. Contact the PPN coordinator if you have any questions. Take an active part in providing the PPN and the PPN reps with information, updates and feedback. So from today, what can we do? What can we do now today? Well, first of all, make sure you can vote. When the elections come around in May, I say here, but actually it's in June. Our colleague from Fingal County Council, Catherine, will give us this information in a few moments. You can plan a meeting with the candidates before the election, and this is called a hustings. This is your opportunity to decide who you will vote for. You can ask them where they stand on disability rights and inclusion, and any other questions you'd like them to answer. DFI and Fingal also plan sessions in 3 areas of the county, hopefully before the elections, on how to set this up. You can make a plan to get out and vote on the day. You could make it an occasion with friends or family, and you can encourage them to vote also. Check if the organisation you are a member of, or where you get your disability services, is a member of the PPN, and if not, you can encourage them to join. So maybe today you might check out the PPN and the Fingal websites and have a look at the news updates and the information to see if there's any meetings or consultations you think are important to attend. And you can see the website for there. Yeah. So please remember, please remember that Fingal is your community. We can't make it a better place to live, to work, or to socialise as a person with a disability if we don't take the opportunities available to us to offer our knowledge, insights on disability and inclusion. There are lots of pathways for our voices to be heard in local government decision making. All we need to do now is to use them and work together to make Fingal the best place to live for everybody in the community. It's important that you remember that as a person with lived experience of disability, that you have lots to offer in knowledge, information, practical understanding of the issues. And the PPN and the local government need your input. Or, as we say here, they'll have to make the decisions and the plans without us. For more information on voting, check out the website www.vote.ie/elections/local.html, and also listen very carefully to what Catherine has to tell us in a couple of moments. If you have any questions or comments, you're welcome to ask.
Would it help if I stop sharing the screen there so that people, I suppose, if we can see anyone on the screen who'd like to ask any questions?
Absolutely, and thank you for your participation, everybody.
It just strikes me that it's really good information for everybody. You know, like, we're going out to communities and we're trying to encourage them, and they don't understand maybe the system and the role of the local authority, be it the permanent staff and the members. So I think this is a really good presentation for literally everyone in the community, obviously specifically for people with disabilities, but it's one of the most easy to understand, clear descriptions of how local government works, and so relevant for people coming up to the opportunity to vote now in less than 6 months' time. So yeah, that's just my take on it. I thought it was really good.
Thank you, Rafe. That's really helpful. And my apologies, I seem to be looking up at the sky. I'm actually looking up here at the monitor because I don't see it on my laptop. So my apologies. But actually, thank you for that, Rafe.
And we have a question in the comments here. So from Aoife. So the biggest hurdle I'm coming up against with my groups is that they cannot open bank accounts. So do groups need bank accounts to access the PPN? And I suppose that's really a question I could probably answer in relation to that. Absolutely. If you want to access funding through Fingal County Council, you will need a bank account. Now, it doesn't have to be a bank account. You could look at a credit union account alternatively. But if you're having difficulty with that, I would say get in touch with us here in the community office and we can meet with your group to see if we can assist with that.
That's great. Thank you, Natasha. And that's a very good, yeah. And it is an issue, I believe, not just for groups, but also for individuals. So it's a much broader question actually at times.
Sorry, Aoife's come back in there. Aoife, listen, if you want to get in touch with us afterwards, it depends on where you're based. Obviously, my colleagues here, Rafe is here from the North County and Katrina is here from Swords and Mid-East. I look after things in Dublin 15, so we'll direct you to whichever is the local community officer for you. So you can get in touch with us afterwards. I'll drop my email into the chat, okay?
Thank you very much. Thanks, Natasha. Has anybody else any other comment or question that they might like to ask or for clarification on anything?
PJ, just to come in there, just a fantastic presentation there and well done. I think it's important that we raise awareness around voting as well, and that we try and encourage as many people as possible in the community to participate, because it's very important that for people, I suppose, it's a social inclusion aspect to it as well, that people feel that they're able to participate more fully in society, and certainly Fingal County Council would like to be at the fore of promoting that as well. So I think for the week that's in it, and it's a great opportunity to promote accessible voting, and I think your presentation there was bang on. So well done on that, PJ.
Thank Thank you very much indeed. Much appreciated. Well, the reality is, I suppose, that I think people maybe sometimes feel a little, maybe distant, that, that they're very much more aware usually of national politics because it's, it's all over the news every night. But actually, just even understanding that we have a voice that we can actually use at local government level, and it can make such a difference to our local areas. And so many are already using that voice. It's just wonderful that that we have a great team in Fingal, all like willing and very, very determined to make sure that people can actually be engaged. And it's just lovely to be in a situation where we can try and encourage people to take up that offer and actually be involved, because I think when it helps people to make the decisions that are relevant to the people on the ground, which is the most important thing. Okay, so perhaps maybe we should introduce Catherine. And we've said an awful lot about, the fact that people need to vote, and Catherine thankfully is going to explain to us how that can come about, how you can get on the vote on the register. So without any further ado, I'll hand you over to Catherine. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, PJ. It's actually a very good presentation and a very good overview. I think it really explained things very well. Well, we work, myself and John, and there's two others, we work on getting people onto the register, enabling people to register to vote. And I'm going to show you just a few ways you can do it. As PJ, you said, everybody who lives in Ireland can vote. If you're a resident here, you can vote. And there's 4 categories. So you can either, there's Irish, EU, non-EU, and British. So really, everybody falls into one of those categories. So if you're Irish, you can vote in all referendums and elections. And if you're EU, you can vote in the EU elections, local elections. If you're non-EU, you can vote in the local elections. And as been mentioned a few times, they are next year. They're June. We're probably the Thursday or Friday, I think the 6th or 7th, something like that, of June next year. And the European elections will be at that time. So on that day, everybody in Ireland who's over the age of 18 can vote. So how do we make sure you are registered to vote, I suppose? So I'm going to try and show you now. Okay, I'm going to try and share my screen, and I hope this works. Now, oops, daisy. Okay, so voter.ie is the website that we use, and this is for Dublin. This is basically for Dublin. There's the same type of thing, and it's called Check the Register, and that's for the rest of the country. But in Dublin, we use voter.ie. So if you click into voter.ie, this is where you can see register for electors. So now on this screen here, anybody can check whether they're registered already. So you can put your house, your name and your address and your air code if you have it, and you can search under that, and it can show you that you are registered at the correct address. If you're not, perhaps you're registered at a previous address, try that, and then within the system you can move to a new address. There's also, just so you don't think it's just about being online, there's also a load of forms here that can be downloaded. So I'm going to show you some forms as well in a little while. But basically, it's very simple. What you will need, your name, your address, and well, actually don't need your address. I will address that bit in a minute. You don't necessarily have to have an address to vote, because there are 2 categories. There's homeless, and there's no fixed abode, and there's anonymous voters as well. So there's just 2 categories, not used that much, but it is possible to vote if you haven't got a fixed address, or if you need to not actually appear on the list of registers, if you have some reason why you'd prefer to be anonymous. So that's basically, everybody can get into this way. And then when you get in here to register, you will need your PPS number and your date of birth. And that will enable you. And I'm going to show you the different forms. Forms here, I think. So this is the main form. And anybody can use this form. And this form, sorry, I'm just going to put that down there, sorry. So anybody can use this form, and it's very simple. It doesn't have to be signed by a guard anymore. You used to have to go to the guards to have them sign. But now with the PPS number and the date of birth, the telephone number, your email number, your nationality, Now, that's all that needs to be filled in by yourself and signed and sent in to us. I'm going to give you some addresses at the end just to make sure you can get them. You can do that, so you can download the form and send it in to us, or you can fill in this information online. So that's one form. There are several forms. I wanted to show just some different types of forms. So here's our, now there's also this form here is an application form for due to disability. So but if you cannot access your polling station, perhaps the polling station is not accessible to you, or you can't leave the house to vote, you can actually get a postal vote, and that's signed off by a medical practitioner. Then that's the anonymous voters. That's a very unusual form, and so far it's only very new. But if that's another reason people might want to, it wouldn't appear on the electoral register, and they just get a number. Then we have students. If you're in college and you're away from home, you can get a postal vote if you can't make it back home again on the day of the election. That's another way you can vote. That's the no fixed abode. Again, I think this is all these forms are about trying to make sure that people can vote from whatever circumstances. And then there's the special voters. And these people would be, if anybody is in a nursing home or a hospital long term, they can apply to, and they will be able to vote in the nursing home or hospital. So there are various forms. They're all available online. So in this thing, now I could, if you wanted, I can just show you. I can just show. Well, I could just quickly type in my name and see if I can show you how it works. And my there we go. Now this should bring up my vote, and there I am. And it has all the information that you'll need to it tells you where you can vote, with your air code and all the rest. And then if I wanted to move, I could edit my details. Or I could add a telephone number, or I could move address as well within Dublin. So that's another thing you can do. Now, I was just going to also give you some information. As I said, there's 4 of us on the team. John's here. We have an email address. So anybody can email us at registerofelectors@fingal.ie, and we'll help them and get back. So we can send forms out. We can help people access the voter.ie website if they need to. The voter.ie website's there. Also, if you do download the forms and you need to send them in, it's free post. Register electors, Fingal County Council, send them in by post. And then our telephone number is there as well. I'll get all that information onto the screen at the same time. But there are several ways, as translators, to contact us. And we'd appreciate if everybody could go online, just make sure that they are registered in the right place.
Sorry, Catherine.
Yeah.
My apologies for disturbing you, but just so you know, your screen is not showing any of what you're saying.
Oh, is it not?
Like your addresses, different forms, it's not moving.
Oh.
Just sorry for interfering, but just to let you know.
So what have I got? What? Sorry, I can't.
If it's the same for everybody now, maybe I'm not sure, but just to let you know.
What you can see then, obviously.
Sorry, Catherine, we can just see the voter.ie Register of Electors website. We haven't had a chance to look at the forms.
Oh, I wonder why that is. Let me just go back into the...
You may need to stop sharing your screen and share another screen.
Oh, I'm so sorry. So sorry. I should have asked, shouldn't I?
IT is there to trial us, Catherine. It isn't there to help us.
I'm sorry about that. Now let me have a look then. I will go back in. Can you see that now? You can see that.
I can see that, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what we've been seeing. Now we can see it, yeah.
Yeah, so what I was trying to do is show you how to so the screen's not moving with me. Is that what you're saying?
It is now.
Is
it is now. It's scrolling down now.
Yeah.
So can you all see first name, last name, and I'm going to put my name in. Can everyone see that?
Yes, indeed.
You can see that now, yeah.
Yeah. So this is basically what we're trying to say was how you just check. So you just put in some basic details. You will need both your, and then and search that. Then I hope you can see this now. And that's how you'll find yourself on the register. And from
Very
that
good.
screen, you can update your details, edit your details. And so that's what I was trying to just show you how easy it is to actually get online to see if you're there. But I was also trying to just show you some,
Sorry, Catherine, just while you're looking for your next form, we have a question here in the chat. So what do voters outside of Dublin use? So you're obviously using voter.ie, but I think it's a check the register for the outside of Dublin.
Check the register. Yeah. So voter.ie, I can type it in. Let's just check the register.
Check the register.ie.
Yeah, .ie.
That's good.
And it's the same system, really. We just don't use it in Dublin, but it's check the register.ie. And it's the same process. The forms are all the same. The forms are countrywide. So, and they're also in English and in Irish. And we have information on voting in, I think, 14 languages. No, the forms aren't in 14 languages, but the information on how to apply. So anybody who would prefer, there's some African Asian languages there as well. So anyone else have any questions on just perhaps how?
Can I ask a question, actually, Catherine? If in the past, people have actually come across accessible issues in terms of the venues, the polling stations, and I know an awful lot of work has been done to sort of counteract that all the way around the country. In fairness, if people go onto that and they see, for example, they'll know where the polling station is, and they feel that it may or may not be accessible to them ahead of time. Wouldn't it be good for them to check, if they looked on that, it'll tell them where the polling station is. So who do they talk to, Catherine, about that if there's an issue?
Well, you can't change polling stations because you're allocated to the polling station based on where you live. So that way, that form, then you could use that form where you get a postal vote to your home. Now, I think generally the county sheriffs, the returning officers, they are ensuring that polling stations are becoming more and more accessible. I know in Fingal we're beginning to use mostly our community centres rather than older schools, which sometimes did have access issues. But I don't know if Cathal has any information on anything like that we're doing, but I know definitely there is a much more of a drive towards making sure that all polling stations are accessible. But yeah, it wouldn't be a bad idea just to check perhaps the parking, making sure there's enough parking space. I don't know, and things like that can deter people from attending.
Just to come in there, I haven't yet discussed that with the various departments yet, but it's certainly something that should be prioritised. Physical access to the centres and also appropriate signage, appropriate parking and so on as well. That's something that'll have to be looked at as well, just in advance of the time as well.
Yeah, definitely no new polling stations. All new polling stations would have disability access, but it may be some of the very old schools and perhaps some of the rural areas. But there's definitely a move towards making sure that they are accessible. They should be. I mean, legally it should be accessible.
Oh well, I know that
prevented from
a lot has been done. A lot has been done, Catherine. In fairness, I think in one of the elections there were a large number, and then they literally have been working really hard to reduce that, and I believe so. But it's good that people will know that it doesn't mean that if you find out where your polling station is and you think it might be inaccessible, it's a good thing to just let people know, so that at least people are aware of it. They may not be aware of it, in fairness. So.
Yeah, there is that option to be able to get a postal vote if you can't access your polling station. Yeah.
Catherine, are there any new polling stations, new locations that say wouldn't have been used in 2019? And how late are those decisions made? Because I know, and this applies to everyone, whether they have disabilities or not, sometimes people go to a place where they voted before only to find that they've got to go to somewhere else, and it might be cross and say from Finglas to another part of Dublin 15. So
Yeah.
when is that definitive information available, do you know?
Well, there is a polling scheme. That's the polling scheme is adopted by the councillors actually, but there are some new polling stations, Rafe, actually, and we have written to every single person who will be affected by this. The new polling stations in Rush, there's a new polling station, so it's not just Rush National School in the north part of it. So it means that people are closer. With divided Rush, there's an extra polling station in Rush to enable people to be closer to their polling station, because again, that encourages people to vote if they haven't got to travel so far. And then Flemington Community Centre is a new polling station. Again,
very good.
Good, yeah, good accessibility, and it means people haven't got to move into walk or drive or get into the town. They're closer to their polling station again.
That'll increase the vote in that part of Balbriggan massively, I'd say.
Well, that is the hope, because that's a low turnout area, and the polling station was very busy in the centre of the town. So this will enable people to be closer, to their own community centre where they live, where the kids go to school, because the schools are both beside it. So, they would have more of a relationship with the centre. And Donabate and Portrane Community Centre is now the one polling station for the whole of the Donabate region. Again, another, pivotal sort of hub, rather than using one of the older schools in the area. So those decisions were made a while ago, and they're only taken on as new polling stations when they do fit quite a lot of criteria that the sheriff and the returning officers would make sure there's they are accessible, and all sorts of fire regulation. I mean, there's all sorts of different things that have to, and the ability to cope with a large number of people turning up. And there may be one in St. Moctus, but it's really only a move from I think it's the junior primary school to the senior primary school. So it's the same campus.
Yeah, grand. That's great. Thanks very much, Catherine. That's very useful.
And we did write to everybody who has moved, so that they have all been informed. And when you do register to vote, it should tell you when you can see yourself registered, it will tell you which is your polling station. So you should have that information as soon as you register.
Great.
Can I ask another question, Catherine, please? There's actually two, I suppose, in one. How long does it take, like, for a person, like how soon before the election should they register? Like, is it instant? Is it? I mean, obviously, you've got to get your stuff sent out to people. You've got to get, their voter card and all the rest of it out. So I suppose people should maybe register as soon as they can to make sure that they're registered.
We would appreciate that. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
And then the other thing is, I suppose, I'm very aware of organizations supporting people with disabilities, particularly, how to vote. So it's wonderful that, and I just want to thank you for that, for explaining about the websites, because I've learned something new today myself. And so it'd be great for the organizations, because they'll be able to sit with people and they can turn on the websites and people can check themselves as well, which is very much part of the process, But Catherine, how soon do you think it would be? Like, is it instant, or is it something that they should do in good time?
Well, we'll be encouraging people to register today, next week, and there's several campaigns running at the moment to register as soon as you can, to get your but if you haven't, or you realise, or you move, I mean, people will be moving from now until just before the election. If you're moving just beforehand, for a special vote, for a postal vote, if it's a special vote, it would be 4 weeks beforehand. The special voter lists are produced earlier because of the fact that postal votes have to get out to people. And it's 2 weeks before an election. The closing date will close, all access to the register will close 2 weeks before polling day. So you'd have to be registered by then to enable us to print the books, print the polling cards, get them out to people, get the so yeah, that would be the timeline on it. But it doesn't take long. It shouldn't take long. Occasionally there are glitches, occasionally, but it shouldn't take very long. It should be fairly it's a fairly easy to use system. We're here to help if people can't, and they can ring us or email us. And we would usually have people on the register within a day or two. and so they're registered, and it doesn't take us very long to do.
That's excellent. Thank you so much, Catherine.
Oh, sorry, and you were saying checking. Yeah, you can check. Then you can check as well that you're on the register. And the other thing is you can now pre-register from the age of 16 as well. So yeah, so you'll become a pending voter, and then if the election is 2 days before your birthday, you will automatically be eligible to vote on that day. You turn 18 in the period, that 2-week period, you will actually still be included on the register. So we'd encourage everybody to there's a category for everybody.
That's super.
Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thanks very much. Does anyone else have any other questions? Everyone's been very quiet. Okay, PJ, I think our next step was really about chatting about what the potential for actually, Catherine, just to go back to you there, is there a way in which people with disabilities can be supported to register on the electors with I suppose with yourselves or with any other organisation? Are they supporting people with disabilities to, I suppose, if they need assistance to register? Is that possible?
Well, I would, as I said, if you can contact us, we can see how we can help in any way. Yes. How would you mean by what type of?
As in, I don't know. Is there a potential for maybe a face-to-face session in a location where people could arrive and they could be supported to check the register, to, I suppose, maybe be directed to the forms that they may require? I suppose, is that a possibility, Catherine? It really is really what I'm asking.
Yeah. I mean, once they ring us, we can talk people through the website. You could also call into. It would have to be the Swords office because we don't have any staff in the Blanchardstown office. But in the Swords office, we could sit with somebody, absolutely. And we've had a few shopping centres, a few different places. We are trying to get out. There's a session in the library in Blanchardstown this weekend. Trying to help people so the forms will be there and we can take the forms back with us. We're in DCU, trying to get encouraging students to vote. So, and I think there's something in Flemington, actually, there's an event in Flemington as well, a registration drive in Flemington. So there are venues where people can go as well at various dates, but we would be available. We'd always, our job is to try and get the register as accurate and as integrity, and to preserve the integrity, make sure it's up to date. So we would be, very proactive. If you want, if anybody has questions for us, we'd be very happy to assist or to answer any questions.
Or potentially pop out to a group or to a location where we know that there would be a large cohort of people who would be interested in registering to vote.
We would do. We would. We are going to a direct provisions, or whatever, I don't know what they call that anymore, but we're
reception centre.
The reception centre, and we're going to one of those in a few weeks' time. We've gone to things like Africa Day, and as I said, there's the voter registration thing in Flemington and in Blanchardstown Library shopping centres. Various flavours of Fingal. We were there, so we tried to reach out to encourage the community to vote, because. People think
it's in everyone's interest ultimately, but I suppose really all I was just trying to do for the purposes of the recording today is that the people know that they can reach into yourselves here in the Office of the Register of Electors, so that they can, if they've identified a group of people who may be interested, or I suppose really the message would be to keep an eye on the Fingal website, on the social media, because the information events like you mentioned in Blanchardstown Library or indeed in Flemington Community Centre will be publicised via those means.
Yes. Often we sort of tag on to an event rather than be the event itself, because it's not the most interesting subject, showing people how to register, but it's important. So often it would be something, I think it's the African Advocacy Network we're linking in with in Blanchardstown on Friday and Saturday, actually. And then again, it's a student open day in DCU. So we sort of, flavours. But if a group would like to invite us, we'll happily take up an invitation. Yes, we'd
That's
appreciate
wonderful.
It. Yeah.
Great,
Um,
thank you,
wonderful.
the
Catherine.
sooner people vote, the better. We don't want to be inundated in the few weeks before an election. So yeah, it would like a smooth roll up to it, with people registering regularly. Yeah.
Is there a date set yet for the European elections? I know that we're here today about the local ones, but people will probably automatically ask about the
Yeah.
MEPs.
Yeah, the European election will be the same day as the local election.
Okay.
And I assume it'll be the Thursday or Friday. The European elections are running across Europe from, I think, the Wednesday to the Sunday of that week, because different countries vote on different days. So therefore, we'll fit into that somewhere. But yeah, it'll be after the bank holiday. Yes, I think it's the 6th or 7th. I think is the what we imagine. But no, there's a writ that has to be and it has to be called. It hasn't been done yet, so there's no official. That's best.
Thanks, Catherine. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for that, Catherine. Sorry, PJ, I didn't mean to jump in there on.
No, not at all. No, it's excellent, because I was just going to say that if anybody on either here present, or if somebody who sees the recording has any questions or would like to get more information, more than happy to speak with anybody, or get in touch with me at PJ Cleere, CLEERE, at disability-federation.ie, or 086 38 11 064, and be more than happy to speak to anybody who has any questions or would like to explore maybe the whole area of local government further. Be more than happy to speak.
I just popped your email there
Thank you.
into the chat there. I suppose I'm just conscious that when we were talking about the, utilising this workshop during Inclusion Week, we also wanted to engage with the community and volunteer groups on the ground, and to, I suppose, ask for their input in terms of where how they would like, would they need more support or more information in order to engage with local election candidates ahead of the local elections next year. And really we were hoping that maybe within the different geographic areas within Fingal that we might look at providing those supports depending on where the needs are identified. I'm very aware that I think we might have lost our last community group there. Tina, are you still with us? I think Tina might have departed, so unfortunately we might not have the occasion, or sorry, the opportunity on the call, because like I said, I think we've just lost the last of our community groups there. But it may be a case that we will be in touch in the different areas locally with the groups to see whether ourselves and Disability Federation of Ireland can support people with disabilities, or I suppose people working with people with disabilities, to with any additional supports that they might need in relation to would they like to do a hustings. We're not going to put words in people's mouths. We want people to come forward and share their own experiences and what supports they might require. So I will be in touch with everyone afterwards, and probably not just myself, it'll be my colleague Rafe and Katrina as well within their appropriate areas. So just to let people know that this isn't the end of our work in this area, and that, like PJ has mentioned, if anyone wants to discuss that further, they can get in touch with any of us here. I don't know if anyone would like to add anything. I suppose we're probably going to end up finishing a little early because we have lost some of our participants along the way. But would anyone like to add anything?
Just one thing, I just took, when the community participants were gone, I just took a screenshot of everyone here just now. And I just want to say, would anyone have an issue with that being posted on Fingal's social later on?
Not at
Speak
all.
now.
Not at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got my hair done, Rafe, as you can see, for the event.
I got mine done too, yeah.
Yeah.
Grand.
I really want to thank everybody for coming on board. I know that it takes a significant amount of time to prepare and then obviously to attend. So obviously for Cathal and Catherine and John, our colleagues in the other departments, for us it's great to work with other colleagues as well on projects like this. So that's been wonderful. And obviously my colleagues in community, they know this is obviously work that's ongoing here, but Would anyone like to add anything further before we wrap up? Obviously, I
would
can't forget to thank Kira and Pauline who came along today to
incredible.
offer interpreting services, and I hope that will really add to the recording and make that as accessible as possible after the fact.
And thanks, Natasha, for your work on this too, by the way. Appreciate it.
And indeed, PJ, for doing all the legwork in doing the
well,
preparation for the presentation and for listening to us in those early stages when we were looking at this project.
Well, I'd like to thank you as well, lads, for thanking me today with the IT glitches that came about. It's wonderful to work with colleagues and we can all figure things out together, which is a great thing. And it all came out well on the day in the end. So thank you very much for your participation as well, and for forwarding this because and allowing it to be recorded. Because as you say, it isn't necessarily always about the people who are here today. It's about the people who might make use of it in other areas, and much appreciate that. Thank you, guys.